exit costs are very, very, very high. So we don't even support our farmers to be able to retire with dignity. And dignity is such a wonderful word, but we don't give enough of it. So, let's move on. Am I getting more upbeat? I don't know. So maybe it's about this environmental strategy. What I'm trying to do with, in terms of regional sustainability, is work on these key issues. And these are the things that I've done recently with 3 regions in the UK. And it's about getting government officials at a regional level to think about designing a really joined up local development strategy which involves farmers and involves rural businesses, because they are so integral and so important. That's the first thing. And it's about establishing an owned and shared vision for environmental strategies and sustainability, so that everybody gets an opportunity to have their say in their own environments. It's about organising support services, and I know that we're doing this already here in Mexico. Support services for farmers who want to become more entrepreneurial. And these support services are very, very important. Providing resources, reduced banking costs, technical assistance and training, access to capital, land and buildings through shared resources, and regulatory guidance. One of the big problems, and I suspect in the UK, for me, in terms of developing anything, and I suspect it's the same in Mexico, is about the barriers to trying to do something different. There is always somebody at a bureaucratic local level who will say, you can't do that. And it's about getting around these people. So it's about developing small rural business charters, I think are very important, which are owned and shared and have a long-term strategy. And this is doable, this is possible. The last point's about the extent to which you encourage and support farm champions who are really active in being able to share their enterprising skills with others. And farmers don't usually share best practice, do they? Not really. They don't tell anybody how much they really earn. The last thing on this slide is about something which I'm very, very, really interested in. I think it's a really fabulous initiative, and it's about this issue of community to community learning. And we talk about business to business learning. I'm now talking about community to community learning, where communities share best practice with other communities and are encouraged to do so and given support to do so. And it's a wonderful, wonderful vehicle, and it costs nothing. So what is going well in one community and what is not going well can be shared with other communities in the next village or the next small town or the next cooperative. So let's return back to some of these national issues. And I keep on talking about this, and this was me being a prophet of doom right at the beginning. Feeding 9 million people by 2050 is going to be a huge task, and at the same time supporting our small businesses, important, but recognising that we have to change our agricultural production. This is the big clash and tension. Look at this agri-farming. You've seen this kind of stuff. You've seen the extent to which, here's a little piece of work that I was looking at recently. The Chinese are now buying land in Russia and importing Chinese labour displacing local labour, which is something which is very interesting, in order to feed a growing urban population in China. Remember, I said that now over 50% of Chinese live in towns and cities. So to feed those people is a huge task. So they're now exporting agricultural practice and exploiting resources, not just in Russia, but in Africa, in parts of South America, etc., etc. Is this where we want to be? I ask you. So, let's go back to the role of regional government again, if I can. So, what I'm suggesting is that maybe what we're talking about is the whole issue of multifunctional agriculture. And I suggest that the role of central government, the role of regional government is fundamental. And it's about looking at the public benefits provided by agriculture and try to look at the whole issue of, for me, rural viability, ensuring that rural environments, our rural environments, are viable and sustainable. I did a piece of work recently which was looking at 3 coastal communities in England, very small. Their population is ageing. They have no schools left. They have no access to rural transport because the funds have been cut. They have 1 doctor, very, very small support. And the issue is, should we let these communities die? Should we let these communities die? You as taxpayers may well have a view. What do we do with communities that are not sustainable? I'll leave that question with you to think about. Let's just go on though, this issue of, I'm just interested in this whole notion of food production. This is the reality now of multi-functional agriculture. You've seen these kind of production factories now, which are remote to many of us. Food production, I was just thinking coming over on the aeroplane here, really I should have done this by Skype if I was really environmentally conscious. And I was thinking about the way that we start to produce food. Is this the way we want it? Or have we no alternative now? Is this the reality? So, if we think about maybe the benefits of agroecology for developing countries, i.e. Mexico, I put into that. I think what it suggests is that it leads to increased job satisfaction, a better management of urban-rural linkages, but it's not an agricultural exit strategy. I've already said we can't afford to do that. This notion of Mexico, 4% of GDP, I think that's nonsense, really, because you think about all of the issues that are associated with agriculture, that we couldn't survive without you people. You are in many ways, the engines of economic sustainability, farm production. So it's not an agricultural exit strategy. But what we do need is higher investment in primary production. This is the contradiction, this is the irony. It's important for family farm income, and it's important for our regional economy, so we can achieve economies of scales. So back to my 3 objectives. And there are 3 out of many. Here's the first one. It's about securing positive externalities, recognising that climate change is here, isn't it? It's about recognising that we want to protect the quality of our landscape. It's about the need for biodiversity. Can't avoid this. Is this what we want? Look at the use of significant arteries in Brazil, for example, that are being degraded. If you think about another issue that just hit me the other week, I just want to show you this because I think it really is, it just hit me home last week. This is going to have such an effect on all of us, isn't it? The reduction of the ice cap. This is going to really affect every single person in this room. Okay, let's move on, please. So my second objective is reduction of poverty and major inequalities. These are significant. So move down, please. In the UK alone, every day we waste 4.4 million apples, 5.1 million potatoes, 2.8 million tomatoes, 1.6 million bananas are binned, or in Americanism, are trashed. Including liquid food, the UK throws away 8.3 million tonnes every year, which is about £680, $1,000 for the average UK family. That is sinful. And that will be replicated, I bet, less so in Mexico, but across developed economies, this notion of the value of food, we just don't value food. Look at the next slide. This is a reality. This is what we do on a daily basis. We throw food away. Move on. Next one, please. Obesity in developed economies. 1 in 3 5-year-old children is obese. 1 in 3. What's it going to be like in developing economies? It won't be the same here, but unless we do something about it and recognise how important it is, this is going to be reality. So let's move on. I'm not in. Objective 3, safeguarding family farming. Now this is, for me, is very, very important. Plus harmonious development of our town-countryside relationship. This is the objective. I don't want, can you go down please? This is the reality that's happening. Look at Mexico City. I flew into Mexico City. I mean, it's just huge, isn't it? And it's getting further and further and further encroaching into rural environments. This says megatropolis, 50 kilometres, 10 kilometres. We're waiting for the city to come to us. So let's move on. We're nearly there, folks. What are the benefits of agricultural economy for Mexico then? Creation of employment, less dependent on external inputs, diversified cropping, and less reliance on fossil fuels. This is what my dream is. So the reality is, all of us live in a time when we must produce more, but at the same time reduce our environmental footprint. That's the challenge for all of us, I think. So, last slide. Enjoy the conference, but I'm sorry if I've been negative to start it all off, but I just want you to be aware of, and I'm not a prophet of doom, I'm actually, my glass is half full. I still think we've got a great opportunity to do things to change. But each and every one of you has got to ask yourself, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Thank you.
Una inquietud de las muchas que expuso el doctor nos lleva a el concepto de burocracia y la relación de esta con nosotros, los productores. En lo personal, me gustaría preguntarle cómo es que él está pudiendo incidir con ministros como con el que platicó allá en el Reino Unido antes de venir para acá, cuando le decía que los pequeños agricultores, pues si no entraban en la dinámica, pues lo sentía, pero la economía es la economía. En México tengo personalmente la impresión de que la política y la burocracia son una sola instancia y acción, y creemos que estas hasta ahora han seguido más bien la línea que las fuentes de financiamiento han sugerido, básicamente Fondo Monetario, Banco Mundial, BID, etcétera, indicando que lo mejor es cuidar el control de esa gran población que significamos los productores agrícolas rurales, pequeños productores, pequeños agricultores. En mi concepto eso es aislamiento, nos tienen aislados por todo lo que usted señaló. En efecto, para nosotros es un aislamiento real, con el cual tenemos que lidiar día con día. La pregunta es, ¿qué tanto usted ha incidido con esos ministros, y en el caso de nosotros, con el que está ahora en el grupo de transición, para que considere que apoyar a los pequeños agricultores es una veta de desarrollo y no una forma de control, porque ni nos controlan, pero sí nos limitan? Y en ese sentido, nos gustaría oír pronto que los créditos que a nivel internacional se otorgan a nuestro país viniesen con una etiqueta, porque nos gusta el concepto, que sea justamente para promover la integración intercomunitaria y la comunicación intercomunitaria, que hasta hoy día se ve política y burocráticamente como riesgosa, y para nosotros es todo lo contrario. Gracias.
Right. That's an excellent question. What I think is very important to recognise that there are these tensions between, as you rightly say, economic drivers and social and cultural drivers. And I think that's very important to say. There has been a sea change, a dramatic change in the way that the UK and the European governments are starting to recognise that regional sustainability is a way forward, if not the way forward. And I think more control is being given to regional development opportunities than from a national level. So the regional government is becoming much more able to support the kind of initiatives that you were alluding to. For example, microfinancial support for smaller business, opportunities for developing larger financial support for significant growing businesses, agricultural businesses, for example. So that's happening. Business development programs, enterprise support are becoming very, very much higher on the agenda for rural businesses. And I'll talk about rural business, not just farming businesses, because they're often interlinked, as you well know. And the final issue is about, I mentioned support for young people to come into the farming community and the farming businesses. That's also happening at a significant level now across the UK regional level, and financial support has been put into that. But there has to be, that expression that you can take a donkey, you can take a burrito to water, but you can't make it drink. There has to be the support at a cultural level, at a local level, from the farming community and rural businesses to engage in change. And if there isn't, you give up.
pregunta más aquí.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Eleuterio Camargo, vengo del municipio de Laguna y San Luis Potosí. Y mi pregunta no es, primeramente quiero felicitar al doctor, darle mi más sincero agradecimiento por sus conceptos que nos virtió en su presentación. Estamos contentos de estar aquí y haberlo escuchado. Felicidades. Y mi pregunta es, escuchando todo lo que nos presentó, mi pregunta sería que sobre lo mismo, ¿qué opinión me merece la agricultura orgánica? Porque para nosotros, algunos productores, es fundamental, que es complemento de lo que él nos presentó. Gracias.
In the UK, organic agriculture represents less than 2% of 2% of agricultural production. I don't know what it is in Mexico. 18. Right. So in one sense, we can learn from you in terms of how we develop. I mean, I would like to see much more organic production, but in order to do that, you need to ensure that the barriers to organic production are not made easier, but people are able to recognise that there are significant opportunities. But there are some tensions at the moment where agricultural organic production, apparently across Europe, and I'm not sure of my data on this, so somebody in the audience might be able to correct me, has been reduced considerably because of the cost of production. So I'd learn from the Mexican example.
Bueno,
Sí, buenos días. Gracias por su exposición y sus conceptos. Yo tengo una pregunta. Hablar de una agricultura integral es hablar también de los mercados. Yo escuché que usted mencionó que los supermercados, tiendas de autoservicio, evitan el desarrollo de economías de escala. Y yo pensaría un poco diferente, y ahí es donde radica mi pregunta. Si no es posible integrar estas empresas con los agricultores, de tal suerte que se forme una política de desarrollo de proveedores a las tiendas de autoservicio. Proveedores, en lugar de ser un productor netamente dicho, que sea un proveedor de las tiendas de autoservicio y entonces tengan una comunidad, una participación las dos entidades y así formar la red de valor. Ahí es donde entra inclusive el tema de agricultura orgánica, en donde no se ha desarrollado más porque ahorita es un nicho de mercado, es para gente que está buscando comer con menos derivados del petróleo. Gracias.
I think there are two dimensions to this. Clearly, supermarkets are in business because they want to make money, and farmers are in business because they'd like to make money. Not that they necessarily do. So the first issue is, I think, a recognition that there is, everything I've been talking about points to the notion of collaboration, and without collaboration, the notion of sustainable communities is not going to happen. And for me, supermarkets, and in the UK, the big four, in the US there'll be three, I think, in France 2, in Spain 2, in Mexico 2. They wield significant power. But I think what they need to think about is the whole notion of long-term sustainability and the moral dimensions which are associated with dealing with producers in that value chain that you talked about. So I fully agree with you, I think, but it does involve a recognition that it's a sustainable business collaboration for success. Now, it might be simplistic, but I think that's the reality, and I think the sooner that supermarkets recognise that reality, then things will change for the better for everybody.